Hello, it's KG and welcome to my first ever chit chat. Get ready with me. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not ready. I'm not ready in any way. I look a hot mess right now. And my plan is to do my hair, which I'm starting with my makeup and an outfit, attempt to make myself look like something. Because by now I don't. I've had a rough week, okay?
I'm going to see Infinity War, and like by the time this video gets edited and out, Infinity War will be old news. Like, so old, I'm sure, but that's okay. And if I'm ever not looking like right at you guys, it's because I'm looking at myself either in my viewfinder or in my mirror. So I apologize for that in advance, but I need to see myself. I'm starting out by reapplying some moisture to my tragically dry hair. Oh my gosh, it is so dry. Let me get some clips.
Put my clips in this Ipsy bag. Little melty egg on it, and then an egg butt on the back. It's so cute. A Shea Moisture. It's the kids' version because it was cheaper, but whatever. A Shea Moisture detangling situation. And we are very tangled, so. Shea Moisture products smell so good. As long as you're healthy and happy, someone out there, not just someone, many people out there, will appreciate your healthy happiness and will join you in it and will be perfectly fine with whatever level of energy you have decided to put into trying to be like everybody else, or like the models, or like or like the people who fit society's mold. It's so dry. It's so dry. Why did I do this? I'm going to see Infinity War, by the way. If I didn't, I said that already, I feel like. But I'm going to see Infinity War. I'm really excited for the Guardians to be in it. In the poster, it looks like Groot is kind of like a teenager, which I'm living for. Teenage Groot. I'd like to see him grow back into his adult form. The baby Groot was cute. Like, he was so cute. In the last movie, he was so much fun. And, like, how he always tried to help. And it wasn't, like, he really thought he was stronger than he was. Like, I feel like he still thought he was adult Groot. So he was always trying to be fierce and fight the big baddies. And it was like, honey, please calm down. Like, you're the size of a leaf. I don't know why you think that this is for you. But he was so cute. And it looks like he's getting older. Which I'm really sad about because he was small and cute and I loved him. But Big Groot, excuse me, Big Groot is just as lovable. So if we return to that, more than cool. I love Guardians characters. I hope they put in that girl from Guardians 2 with the antennas. I loved her. And like, I know her whole thing is that she always got made fun of and that she didn't really know why am I clipping this? Like, is even not about to take out all my clips? And that she didn't know she was being made fun of, but she was so cute. Like, I adored her character. I love Guardians. I'm excited for them. I'm excited for Iron Man, even though since his retirement, I haven't really been too keen on what they do with the character, but I mean, he's still Iron Man. I think Spider-Man is in it, which is always lit. I love the way that they can animate him and have him like climb on things and just be super cool. I love Spider-Man. I love me some Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man and Batman are life, which I'm sure everybody loves Spider-Man and Batman, but they're for real the faves. Okay, what am I gonna do with my hair is a real question. Cornrows and throw on a wig and just call it a day. Like, I really am done with my hair, and I feel like I can't be the only natural who has reached a point where in which she or he is through with their hair. So you guys, when you reach that point, what do you do? How do you keep going? How do you not just get a weave, get a relaxer? Even if I got a relax, like, my hair is no thinner than it was when it was relaxed. The only reason I went natural is because my mom's hair had started falling out, and I was like, well, what if that's me when I'm, older? But at the age that I was, when I went natural, my relaxed hair was fine. It was just as thick, it was just as tangled and dry. It was thriving and struggling in the exact same ways. My hair process is really no it's no worse. Like, it's not like this takes me longer. I'm just sick of it. I'm done. I'm done. I just want it gone. Like, so I went and got a little snack, and I'm back and ready to begin my makeup. So I've zoomed in a fair bit here just to show y'all what I'm doing, because I'm about to start my eyebrows. That's usually how I start my makeup. Just so we're clear, I don't do a full face of makeup. I don't wear foundation, concealer, contour, bronze, blush. I don't wear all of that. It's mostly just eyes, highlight, and lips. Nice. After that, I'm good. So that's all I'm going to be doing today, because that's all I ever usually do. So while we're here, again, this is going to be old news by the time this video gets out. And again, my mirror is sort of off to the side, so if I look like this, it's because I'm looking at my mirror, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to put it kind of behind my camera. That's about as good as I can get. So while we're here, I want to talk to you all. Again, once this video comes out, this will be old news for sure, and you can see every pore in my face. But I want to talk to you guys about Kanye. This is the day after that man decided that it was in his best interests to tell the internet, I'm using a toothbrush to do my hairs, by the way, to tell the internet through a TMZ interview that slavery was a choice. Now, previously, Kanye has done lots of outlandish things. This is like before the Trump thing. He's always been a odd character. He's always had his quirks. I've never brushed my eyebrows like this, and I kind of like it. He's always been an odd character. He's always had his quirks. He has always been a little bit different of a thinker. He has always been unnecessarily philosophical, in my opinion. He has always been special. I dismissed it as Kanye's crazy. I dismissed it as he just feels the need to be philosophical and different without really understanding that he doesn't need to do that all the time. And I just kind of dismissed Kanye and left him to do his own thing, left him to his own devices, and I was just like, he makes okay music, so if he's crazy, then, I mean, I guess that's, you know, lots of artists are mentally not okay, so it made sense to me. I was like, that's reasonable. Okay, Kanye, you do you. I'm not really minding this. Then I saw Kanye posted his Trump hat having been signed. To those of you who don't know, which is all of you because I've never said it before, I do not support Donald Trump. But anyways, I saw Kanye having gotten his Trump hat signed. At first I was confused because Donald Trump's signature just looks like a squiggle. So I was like, you just scribble on a Trump hat, like, I thought it was a joke, but no. It was his actual signature, and Kanye was actually proud to have his hat signed, and I was like, okay, so I guess Kanye really wanted his hat signed. I guess that, you know, it kind of came to fruition through some of the things that he was saying, that he was a Trump supporter. And while I don't tend to completely excommunicate Trump supporters, I do not. Oh my gosh, I've been brushing my eyebrows for 50 years. Well, they just like do what I want. I do not. I don't believe the same things that they believe to a very extreme extent. I feel so. I tend to just not really get along with them. I can't talk to them, so I end up excommunicating them just because when I try and talk to them, it just doesn't work out. It's not like, oh, you're a Trump supporter, you're out of my life. It's just kind of like, it's just not gonna work. It's just not gonna happen. By the way, I'm using the Modern Matte Beauty Treats palette. It's a very cheap palette. It's at 5 and Below. I think it's $3 or $4. I love this palette. I do have more expensive makeup, but I love this one. Like, I really do. It gets the job done. It's the perfect shades for me. And I use this brown in the corner for my eyebrows. I love this palette. I don't care that it was $3. I love this palette. But anyways, I don't excommunicate Trump supporters, but I just know that I don't agree with them. Like, we just do not believe, fundamentally, we just do not have the same principles. So I know that my relationship with Trump supporters just tend to not work out. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not really feeling that Kanye is a Trump supporter. I'm not too big of a fan of that. I don't like that. But it made sense to me also because Donald is a Republican, and Republicans tend to support big business. And Kanye's whole thing is a big business. Like, he is a big business. He is at the top of the top. He's like the Walmart, and then other singers are like the Moe's corner store, you know? So it's like, it makes sense that he would support those kinds of things. And then he said he doesn't agree with everything that Trump says. He said that at Kim's request. But he said it, and I was like, well, what things do you agree with? Because, you know, supporting big business, I understand that. Not, other things I don't really sympathize with. I don't understand them. I don't understand why you would believe those things, being a man in a minority, you know, being African American. I don't understand it. So I was just very, I was disappointed but not surprised at that point with Kanye. I'm just like, okay, I thought you were crazy before. Now we have differing political beliefs to a very extreme extent with this candidate in particular. I'm just like, okay. I guess me and Kanye just can't have small talk together because it's just not going to work out, but that's fine. I mean, do your career, live your life. Always knew you were crazy and not really too concerned. I just kind of wish that you felt differently, but I can't change people's beliefs. People can't change my beliefs. It's just not fair. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like, feel how you feel. Then the TMZ interview came out. And that is when I decided, well, not decided, but I just felt in my heart that it was a political stunt. Like, there is no way Twitter drags you for signing a hat and taking a picture, and then you go on an interview and say slavery is a choice and think that you're not going to get dragged again and think that that's going to be okay. Like, this must be a political stunt. Like, there is just no way. I don't care if Kanye's crazy or has mental issues or, like, if you're not smart. I don't care. Like, you are able to make that connection in your head. If you're going on an interview right after getting dragged by the internet, you should probably be doing damage control instead of going and saying more radical things that will just make people more upset with you. So I still feel kind of that it was a a publicity stunt. Kanye saying what he said. To those of you who don't know, I guess I should explain it. Kanye went on an interview with the TMZ and he said that he felt that slavery was a choice, that if it lasted for 400 years and everybody, you know, all the blacks, by that, everybody, was kept as a slave, then, you know, slavery must be a choice. And he said that he doesn't like to use the term slavery because slavery is synonymous with blacks. You know, like, if you think Jews, you think of the Holocaust, if you think of the Holocaust, you think of Jews and their suffering. If you think of slavery, you think of blacks and their suffering. He said he likes to say prison, because prison combines all the races, black, white. He said black and white, but all the races in one thing, because all races go to prison. So that's what Kanye said, and the internet is up in arms, clearly. And so Kanye's saying, using a Sephora beauty amplifier, you know, just eyeshadow base. Yes, ma'am. If Kanye thinks that, for some reason he thinks he can say these things and people are not going to react poorly. Whenever his friends, such as John Legend or Big Sean, have told him, or even Kim probably, have told him, you know, maybe you shouldn't say things like that, he's saying, oh, you're trying to manipulate me, which is like, why are you so radical? Why are you so extreme? Nobody's trying to manipulate you. Your friends are just trying to help you get a little bit less dragged by the internet. Like, people are just trying to protect you. And you're out here being ridiculous. It's not fair. I'm getting a lot of text messages right now. You're out here being ridiculous, and it's just not fair. It's just not cute. Like, well, it's fair. I shouldn't say it's not fair. I wasn't thinking when I said that. It's just not. I don't think it was very kind of him to put his texts on the internet because they were sent to him in confidence, and I don't know if John Legend and Big Sean and so and such, etc., care that their texts are out there. Like, basically, these people texted Kanye and were like, hey, you shouldn't say stuff like that. I don't know if they care that the texts are out there, but they were sent to Kanye in confidence. Like, when you post your texts with people, you tend to, like, cut out their name and stuff. You're not trying to, you know, create drama and have shots be fired. But Kanye just didn't care, and he posted without any regard for, you know, if they didn't want the words that they said to Kanye to be said to the entire world. Lots of issues with this whole situation. I clearly have lots of them. I'm going to be using a mixture of my modern matte palette from before and the Morphe 35O to do the rest of my look. I'm keeping it simple. Well, simple. It's simple for me. Excuse me. So I'm getting my brushes out. These are all Morphe brushes. Just, yeah. I don't have a code. It's not affiliated. I just have a lot of Morphe brushes. So, you know, Kanye, I don't think that he should have put his friends on blast like that, but the fact that he did, I'm not too pressed. You know, maybe they don't even care, but I just think it was a little bit disrespectful. But again, I'm not in there. I don't know if he asked permission. Maybe he did. I don't know the details, so I'm not too concerned with that. I'm more so talking about Kanye saying that slavery was a choice. First of all, I'm hearing lots of people saying he needs to pick up a book and educate himself, which is a lovely argument. I do not disagree with you. It's just, did he really need to pick up a book, though? I don't think that this is a lack of knowledge. I don't think that this is ignorance, because I don't know if there's been some huge change in the school system from when Kanye was in school to when I was in school, but I learned about slavery starting very young, probably in like 3rd grade. And I definitely learned about it in middle school. Like in middle school is when we really went into it and learned about the revolts and Jim Crow, and, well, Jim Crow wasn't part of slavery, but just the effects of slavery, just everything. We really went into it in middle school. So I'm like, did Kanye go to middle school? Because if he went to middle school, he should know this information. That's it. You should know. The way that slavery existed, there we go. The way that slavery existed is common knowledge if you went to middle school. So a lot of people are saying, you know, Kanye is ignorant and he needs to educate himself. I think that he knows the exact same information that we know, and he's just chosen to interpret it differently. This is, all that I'm saying is assuming that this wasn't just a publicity stunt. This is assuming that he's actually believing the things that he's saying in this interview. So it's just a little bit silly to me to be like, oh, well, he needs to, you know, I'm losing my point. Oh, he needs to educate himself, because he knows. He knows. He's just ignoring facts. I don't know which color I'm going to use, actually. I don't know. I'm trying to pick this up and show you a color. I don't have one picked out. I don't even know what I'm doing. I guess I'll go... Y'all don't care. I'm using this one. Oh, gosh. This one. That's the only color I'm going to show you, because y'all don't care. This is not a tutorial. But anyways, Kanye knows the information. He knows the facts. He knows the truth. I cannot see. There's not enough light. Okay, I have to look at my mirror for this one. He knows the facts. He knows the truth. He knows what's going on. He has just chosen to ignore such things. He has just chosen to have different beliefs and feel a different way. And it's not ignorance. It's not a lack of knowledge. I refuse to believe that he just somehow didn't know that slaves have had hundreds of revolts. Slaves have tried to get away. Slaves have gone through the law system. Slaves have done violent things to get out. Slaves have done non-violent things to get out. Slaves escaped the parenthood. Slaves didn't just sit around and say, oh, we're slaves, super duper. You know, guess I'll clock in for my shift, pick this little cotton. I might take a break in the bathroom for a while if I get tired, you know. No, that's not it. And then I hear a lot of people defending Kanye saying, he's not saying that he thinks slavery is a choice. He's saying that just the fact that nobody, you know, stood up and tried to stop slavery just shows the power of it, basically, you know, just shows, like, if we had, you know, combined as a black community and worked harder to stop slavery from existing, then it wouldn't have existed for 400 years. 400 years of slavery is just us choosing to be slaves. And again, that's nonsense. There have been hundreds of slave revolts that have resulted in hundreds of slave deaths. I don't know if hundreds, at least tens, but there were slave revolts, and when the slaves revolted, they died. They died. They just died. They didn't get away successfully. They didn't kill who they were trying to kill, and they died. And Or even if they did get away, you know, they're stuck in the South. They had to get out of the South before they really away, and a lot of them couldn't make it. Once they're in the North, even then, it's not like they have perfect lives lined up for them. It was not easy, and Kanye knows this. Kanye knows this. We're not gonna ever Kanye's an idiot and he wasn't educated and he doesn't know anything. Kanye knows this information. Let's give credit where credit is due. Kanye knows everything about slavery. So to hear that he's the defense that he's saying we should have, you know, combined the black force to fight the whites and, you know, not be slaves for so long and we just let it happen is ridiculous. It is ridiculous because it's acting as if nobody ever stepped up and said, you know, we don't want to be slaves. Let's stop this. It's acting as if, first of all, it's not common knowledge that we didn't want to be slaves. But second of all, acting as if we never ever tried to do anything at all to get ourselves out of slavery, which is absurd. It is ridiculous. It is the silliest thing. Oh, sunlight. It is the silliest thing I've heard all day. And just hearing people try to defend Kanye, it's like, I don't really care if he was trying to say we should have, like, fought back. I don't really care if he's saying, you know, if he's saying slavery was a choice and we chose to be slaves. I don't care which way you want to interpret it. They're both wrong, because slavery was not a choice. Nobody would have chosen to be treated as a slave. I'm sorry. Nobody's going to choose the American slave life, and we did not. It wasn't like nobody tried to revolt. That's absolutely ridiculous in history. Whenever there is tyranny, people revolt. Whether or not the revolts are successful depends on how powerful the tyrant is. And when we're talking slaves versus whites, the whites had more education, more fear. They just were able to scare their slaves. They had weaponry. They had everything. You know, the slaves had cotton picking knowledge, and with that, you really cannot lead a slave revolt. You really cannot escape from a bad situation with cotton picking knowledge and nothing else. So, I really don't want to. I just applied a lot of color. Okay, I'm gonna move my mirror for this eye. I really don't want to hear that slavery was a choice. I don't want anything that ridiculous coming out of anybody's mouth for the rest of the year. I don't want to hear anybody trying to defend Kanye and say that he's making any kind of points, because he's not. He's just talking out of his ass and being ridiculous, making no sense whatsoever. And obviously, I'm assuming that I've, you know, said my piece and we understand how I feel about the matter now, but, you know, there came a point in time where everybody kind of just, like, started listening to Chris Brown again. I don't know when that was. I don't know, like, when we were like, oh, he beat up Rihanna, that's okay, we were over it. You know, back to Chris Brown, you know, the ban is up, it's time to get back into his music. I don't know when the internet came to that consensus. I was not invited to the party that day. I missed the memo. You know, once I said I was done with Chris Brown, I've been done with Chris Brown. And, you know, I've ended up hearing some of his music by chance. I haven't bought any of it. I haven't supported him, and I don't intend on it. And, you know, you're free to have your own opinion, but for me, when I feel someone has done something wrong, there's a consequence for your actions, and the consequence varies, but in certain cases, it's a certain thing. Like, I don't support Jeffree Star anymore, and there are lots of African Americans who've forgiven him for his racist comments, and, you know, say people change and whatever, and that's fine. You live your life, you do you. You are free to feel however you feel about the situation, but I feel differently. So for me, when I say, I always thought Kanye was crazy, but I was able to excuse it because I thought it was just a creative sort of crazy. Now when it is a crazy that doesn't support me as a person, me as an African American person, I don't think I can continue to support him in his music. I will not be purchasing. If he releases a fire song, I might download it illegally and just listen to it that way, but I really will not be giving him any of my points. And honestly, in the grand scheme of life, that probably does not make a difference at all to Kanye. My little 99-cent download or my little $100 concert ticket is not It's not going to ruin him. It's not going to make or break his life. It's really not. And I'm okay with that. I'm choosing to not support who I'm choosing to not support in life because I want to. I'm not out here to ruin their career. I'm just out here to stand up for what I believe in. And I believe slavery was not a choice, and that if you say that, you're ridiculous, attention seeking, and it must be a publicity stunt because there is no way that you honestly believe that. Like, I cannot wrap my head around it. And also, lots of people are saying Kanye has been affected by Kim and that he's, the Kardashian curse or whatever. But are we forgetting how Kim was like, hey, Kanye, you might want to say that you don't agree with everything Trump does because people really don't like him. Are we forgetting that? I'm not forgetting that. I think that Kim is standing by her man because that's her man, but I think that Kim knows slavery wasn't a choice. Like, I think everybody except Kanye knows that at this point. I'm just putting that out there. Through these whole arguments, I've seen a lot on white privilege, a lot of arguments on whether or not white privilege exists, and I don't like talking about this stuff at this point in my life because it just feels like a waste of breath. Like, I feel like at this age, if you think that white privilege exists, then you think that white privilege exists. If you don't know what white privilege is, there are plenty of sources out there that explain it, and you can understand the institutionalization, and you can understand it and decide if you believe it or not. And if you've decided at this age, not just like, a young teen, 12, 13, 14 years old, young and naive, if you've decided at a grown age to feel a certain way about a certain topic, like if you've decided white privilege isn't real and that slavery and segregation, the effects are not still seen to this day, if that is how you feel, then that is how you feel, and I can voice my opposite opinion all day long until I'm black and blue in the face, is what I was trying to say. I can voice my opinion all day long, but at this point, you're not going to believe me. So it just feels like a waste of breath. So this is me speaking to a younger audience, those of us who have never heard of white privilege. This is me attempting to explain it to y'all, and you can decide if you believe it or not. And if you don't, there's really nothing I can do about that because you are grown enough to make that decision on your own, and me just wasting my breath it's a waste of my breath. So white privilege is the idea that racism and segregation ended about 100 years ago, by the way. And is that true? That's not true. Segregation was around when my grandmother was alive, and she's 84, so less than 84 years ago. My grandmother didn't live in America, but it's beside the point. Segregation didn't end all that long ago, so I'm trying to say. It wasn't like it was 1845 when it ended. Just the idea that those things still affect us to this day. Yes, segregation is gone, but there's an institutionalized racism, such so that, the majority of people in prison are African American. When you hear something like that, the natural inclination is to believe, well, African Americans commit more crimes. And A, that is not true. B, African Americans are often put in a position to commit more crimes because of the system. They are often so poor that they need something. Okay. Let me start from the beginning. Slaves have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. Then we get into free slaves who still have nothing, have to kind of work their way up from the bottom into, something barely livable. We get into segregation, in which you can have something in the black community. You can, but you can almost never have more than a white man. It's just not allowed in that system. The system is designed so that the blacks will be the inferior race financially. Segregation ends, but there is still racism. So you're in a period where, technically speaking, as an African American, you can have just as much as any white person, but you are not likely to because of, gosh, this is a really bad highlight color, because of the racism that exists. You're not likely to get the executive management job that a white person applied for because you are not a white person. Then we get into the next generation that is trying to be less racist. There are still some weak links, but people are generally trying to get along and think of each other as equals, which is great. But that doesn't mean that there's not still biases. For example, if your parents were those who dealt with racists and couldn't get the best jobs and therefore grew up poor, you will have grown up poor and be in a poor neighborhood. Because you're in a poor neighborhood, you go to a poor neighborhood school. Because you're in a less well-off school, you get a less good education, therefore you can't go to college because you can't afford it and your grades weren't good enough for a scholarship, or you go to a not quite as good college. It's just harder to get out of the poverty that you were put in because of past generations. It's just harder to get out. And that's just the way that works, because you're just born into the life that you're born into, and the life that you're born into is the result of struggles of your ancestors. So it's not likely that as an African American you will be in a good place financially. And because of that, you are met with biases. For example, you're more likely to commit crimes because you have, well, not more likely to commit crimes, you're just not more likely to commit crimes than white people in general, but just than better, like, more financially stable people, because you might need to survive. Goodness, I'm really spilling the tea today. You are biased against, people do it unintentionally, to the point where when employers are reading through applications, they might see Tim and then, I have to do girls, they might see Sally and then LaDacia, and they're likely to assume that LaDacia is black, and a bias in their head, not intentional racism usually, just a sort of bias might lead them to call Sally before they call LaDacia. It's just the way it is sometimes. And it's just little things like that exist in all facets of life, to the point where you can't really do much of anything without having to fight the racial bias of, blacks being more likely to be pulled over just because they're more likely to attract suspicion, just because of stereotypes, and the racial bias. You're more likely to assume that a black person is doing something wrong than a white person. Things like that just are lingering influences of the acts of white ancestors create white privilege. Just the idea that being white makes you privileged in American society because you don't have to deal with racial biases that blacks or other minorities have to deal with. It's not saying that you own slaves. It's not saying that you killed a bunch of people, did a bunch of stuff wrong, and are just like a terrible person. It's just saying you have a bit of privilege here and you have a bit of an advantage. That's all that does. That's all it does. It just points out your privilege. And you don't really have to do anything about it, except for know that your privilege exists. So that is what white privilege is, and I just saw a lot of argument about white privilege in the Kanye comments, and I didn't care to argue back, because at this point, we're grown, we have our opinions, and I'm not going to change your mind, and I'm not going to waste my breath attempting to. I just really, oh gosh, it's red, that was brown, I don't understand people who refuse to believe at this point. I just feel very inclined to believe that they feel attacked and they're becoming defensive. They don't want to feel like I didn't own slaves, so how is it that I'm privileged by my ancestors when I didn't own slaves? Like, that was so long ago, that has nothing to do with me. I understand that. I'm not saying that you own slaves because you're white. I'm not saying that you're a bad person. I'm just saying you're a bit more privileged in society, and it would be beneficial if you understood that privilege and just took things that are being said on racial standpoints with a bit of a grain of salt because you are being privileged in your life. That's all that we're trying to say. And lots of people don't understand this concept, which is fine. I'm not gonna argue with people anymore. I've wasted enough breath and enough time. Just understand what white privilege is, and you can feel any kind of way that you want to feel about it. I'm not here to police you. I'm just not. Alright, we're gonna move into eyeliner now. Oh goodness. Lots of tea have been spilled today. The key to my eyeliner game is the Nano Liner by Absolute New York. It is a fine-tipped eyeliner pen that I use to correct my initial eyelining, which I'm going to do with, I have lots of liquid eyeliners. I'm going to do with the Ico London Skinny Liquid Liner in black. So I actually need to take a break from talking to focus on my liner. As you can see, my eyelining is atrocious. So now we go in with the fine-tipped liner and just fix my mistakes, which is kind of the whole thing. Yes, I'm living for this. Living for this. Okay. Okay. I love to kill it with a good lip, but I have a date, you know, so if I want to kiss him, I probably shouldn't have like pounds of lipstick, so I'm gonna skip it. I'm gonna do mascara. I don't wear falsies. It is something I would like to get into, but I don't. We're using Better Than Sex by Too Faced. I would like to get into falsies, but I just haven't yet, so here we are. I tend to not do my under eyelashes because they look like spider's legs. I tend to not do it with the Too Faced, at least. I'm gonna do it today. I don't do it every day, but if I do it, I definitely do not do it with this, because it is far too effective, and it just makes me look crazy. Ah, yes, living. Okay, we're gonna use Makeup Forever Professional Paris Excessive Lash for my under eyelashes. I feel like this one is just a very natural lash look, so I pretty much only use it on my under eyelashes because I usually always like my top lashes to pop and be super long and just, you know, be doing the most. So this one, it's mostly an under eye product for me. There we go. My eyes are starting to water, but they better stop playing games. Okay, now we're going in with highlighter. I have the Naked by Urban Decay Illuminated. I'm a Laura Geller New York in the shade Gilded Honey. So, this bad boy, and it's not in the pink one, this is the gold one. I feel like that should be obvious. And this bad boy. So, we're gonna go in with my fan brush and my ankle whatever brush. Oh, getting uncomfortable. And do my highlighter, and I'm gonna actually zoom out. Okay, not all the way. I'm a little too tall for my camera. Okay. So here we go. I highlight cheekbones up into the forehead, and then I check the glisten in the sunlight. Okay. We do the same thing with that. Yes. The Laura Geller Meller, whatever. I feel like it makes me look a little ashy, so I use it sparingly with my fan brush because it's not quite the right color. Lots of bold highlighters though make me ashy, so that's nothing new. And I just put, like, you know, there, the very tops of my cheeks. Like right before my cheeks start to slope down into my eyes. And that's just because I like to glisten for the gods. I said I like to glisten for the gods, I can't. I use a foundation brush to finish my highlight applique. And I put some tip of my nose to accentuate how big and fat my nose is. And I'm gonna keep it low. I especially focus on the cupid's bow if I'm wearing a lip, which I'm not today. If I was wearing a lip, I wear my Ulta Purple Lip Gloss. It is a go-to, and it's not even here. Okay, well then in that case, I would replace it with my Tarte lip paint in purple. Purple lips are a game killer for me. But since we're not going purple, I just put a little Vaseline on my lips to function as a clear lip gloss, and that is that. So now I'm gonna go and like get dressed, take this off, and just, you know, pull myself together. What do you do if you're wearing makeup and you start crying? Because my eyes are watering like really badly. Like, clearly your makeup game is destroyed, but how do you come back from that? Like, you're out in public, your mascara was running, your eyeliner's everywhere, your shadow, like, do you just carry a remover around with you? Like, I'm missing the key. I'm scared I'm going to get too bad of eye waterage and just ruin my life. And here we are, fully finished. My hair is still not in the mood to cooperate with me, but sometimes that's just life. This is the fit. I have this like cropped California hoodie, tight skinny jeans, and I will be wearing these bad boys with their glistening heels. I love them. Makeup, I'm looking for it, particularly that little touch of my highlight is giving me life. And I'm ready to have a good time tonight. When y'all go to see Infinity War, please let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the movie. I'm about to go watch it so we can talk together. No spoilers though. I will make a spoiler video, maybe, if it's like that good, but let's not spoil in the comments for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. Please and thank you. Alright, I'll see all y'all next time. And until then, toodaloo.